Keep allowing people to come through as we go along. So yeah, for those people who don't know me, I'm Rebecca Screen. I'm a naturopath. I've been a naturopath for over 20 years, and I've always had an interest in fertility and women's health in particular. So today you're going to be hearing all about how natural medicines can help to increase and optimize fertility and success rates. Who hasn't had their own maybe fertility issues or knows someone certainly struggling with fertility? Some of you might be curious to see how this might be able to help with your patients. Others, yeah, you might be on the fertility roller coaster and not quite sure what to do next. You might just be trying to conceive, planning on starting at the end of the year, or you might have had multiple rounds of IVF or even recurrent miscarriages. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that I go through with my patients. And I encourage you to, listen with feeling as we go through and just take on board the information as to what greater insights you might be able to gain and an understanding of how natural medicine might be a missing piece and something that you want to explore further on your own fertility journey. So this is me with my kids in Phillip Island a couple of years ago. So yeah, as I said, I'm Rebecca Screen. I'm a mum, I'm a naturopath, and I'm a business owner. I work at two very busy naturopathic clinics, and my own journey with natural medicine to optimize fertility was with my second child, with my son. My auntie had gone through a very traumatic pregnancy, and I was a little bit older second time around, so I consulted my own fertility naturopath, who I can say that she's a friend of mine at this present time. And yeah, I learnt so much as to how I could be playing a very proactive role in what else I could be doing to not only help my everyday health, but certainly enhance my fertility. It's not just women in their 40s who are struggling to conceive. I'm also working with patients in their 20s and their 30s. Some patients might have conceived very quickly with baby number 1, and they might need some help for baby number 2, baby number 3, or a couple of years ago, baby number 7. And in my experience, there is just so much more that is not shared when it comes to fertility. And a patient of mine was quite surprised after doing some work, and she said, I can't believe after 4 months of preparing my body, it happened first try. And that's not something that a lot of people can say, even with IVF cycles and the IVF success rates, which we'll talk about in a minute. So today we're going to have a look at a healthy body as a fertile body, how to know what your fertile window is and when might be the best time in the month to actually try conceiving if you're trying to conceive naturally. The importance of sperm quality, which is just such an overlooked aspect of fertility. There is so much emphasis on a female body, and quite often it's the male side of things that needs a helping hand. And for me to work with fertility, if there is a male partner on the scene, then, it is about working on both the female and the male health factors. They're both as equally as important. For those people who might have joined us a little bit late, all good. I am recording this and I will upload and email you the recording as soon as I can. It may not be today because after this presentation, I've got a back-to-back caseload with patients until 7 o'clock tonight. We'll also learn some of the lifestyle factors that might be negatively impacting your fertility, and there are many. You may already be doing some great things, avoiding alcohol, smoking, whatever it might be, but we'll talk about some of those other things. And one of my favourite areas, what are the essential fertility testings? And again, this is often overlooked, and I'm a big believer in testing helps to take the guesswork out of anything, not just for fertility. And I'll share with you a very important aspect of fertility for male fertility. And it was really lucky that I'd actually picked that up for him, and they've got a great result now. So does this sound like you? You might be struggling to conceive. You don't know what to do. You might also feel like you've quickly jumped into the IVF world. And for some, it might also be that you're feeling like you've left it too late. You know, I know one of my mum's girlfriends, she never thought that she would meet someone. And at the age of 40, she'd never thought that she would have children until she met this person. And, you know, that is also a factor. A lot of women, a lot of couples are leaving it until a lot later in life. And yeah, that can be a fear, a doubt of, is this ever going to happen? Because maybe I've left it a little bit too late. The thing about IVF, I pulled up some statistics, and in 2020, there were 95,699 IVF cycles. And out of those cycles, 23.3 cycles were successful. So that was just over 22,000 cycles, resulted in a pregnancy. But out of those 22,000 cycles, 17,761 actually resulted in that woman having a live birth and giving birth to her baby. So, you know, sometimes we can get into the fertility, IVF, assisted reproductive side of things, and it may not happen as quickly. And sometimes we're really looking for that hope of this is going to work. And I'll share a really good case as to a patient with IVF many times. Treating the physical side of things may not actually be enough. So I look at the emotional aspects of our health as well. And I say this to everybody: for a healthy conception, we either need it to be healthy eggs and sperms, whether naturally conceived or IVF, assisted reproductive. So some of the people that I work with, I'll send you this as a recording, so we don't need to go through all of these right now. But, you know, people are on lots of different stages of their journey. And, you know, for some people, they might have been only trying for, not only, but trying for 12 months. Others might have been trying, like a patient earlier today, for 10 years. It can be a really long journey. It can also feel like you're running a marathon. Now, you know, if you were a runner, if you compete in marathons, you might only do 1, 2, maybe 3 a year. It's almost like we need to recover from that marathon. What does it take?
The supplements out of stock.
Oh, whoever's just on with their audio, do you mind just muting, please? Thank you. But most often I hear with IVF cycles that, you know, if this month hasn't been successful, then, you know, they're very quickly encouraged to start again next month. Quite often it can actually be a really good thing just to have a break from that as well. Give your body the opportunity to recover, to restore and replenish itself rather than running on empty as well. But there is good news. There is hope. A lot of people still may not understand the term preconception care. You may never have heard of it. People ask, what can a naturopath do to help me? Even though you might be with the care of a GP, a fertility specialist, sometimes you might need a team. And it can all come down to maybe doing some things that are different. If you keep doing the same things over and over again, then you're likely to get the same results. But when you implement some changes, that can be just irreplaceable when it comes to the main goal that you're working on, to be pregnant, to get pregnant. But really, it's also about holding and having that healthiest baby at the end of that pregnancy time. So one of the things that keeps me going and why I love this work and why I've been doing it for over 20 years is it's so rewarding to help couples, and I get the notification, the phone call, whatever it might be, that I'm pregnant. And it's my mission to share this information with as many people as possible, that there is a different way, and can be a very empowering way. And you can also be very active and play a very important part of optimizing your fertility. And I'd like to share with you a patient only last year. She'd been trying to conceive for over 2 years. She was 42 years of age, had had 1 miscarriages, but 6 failed IVF cycles. So 6 cycles within 2 years is a lot for a body, but certainly not unheard of. And she had great quality embryos that were being transferred. She had very good quality. But with all of the failed IVF cycles, she was disappointed, she was frustrated that her fertility clinic and specialist didn't, after 6 cycles, want to do anything different. There was no talk of what supplements, what diet, lifestyle recommendations. It was just, okay, when are you ready to go on to the next cycle? And she thought there must be something else that she could be doing. And so when they first came to see me, she was currently in the middle of a cycle. And I got an email after her appointment. We agree that working with you is going to be a step in the right direction for our fertility journey and our overall health. And we're excited about what the future holds. And at the end of 2021, she decided to have a break. She had a break for a couple of months with a fertility specialist and with me because she had another failed cycle. But she did keep up with quite a lot of the supplements that were recommended to her. And she touched base again with me in August last year, only to say that she was about to start a new IVF cycle. And I was away on holidays at the time. To get back from holidays to an email, and the heading was positive pregnancy test. And she said to me, "Hi, Rebecca, I know you are currently overseas at the moment, and I am not too sure when you will be back to read this." Here I am thinking that the positive pregnancy test had come from that new IVF cycle that she was about to start. But I wanted to let you know that I've done 3 different home pregnancy tests this morning, all of which have come back positive. This is a natural conception. So for that couple, after years of trying and 7 failed IVF cycles, they were pregnant naturally. So, you know, at the age of 42, after so many unsuccessful rounds, you know, it still can happen. So it can all come down to planning and preparing. And in life, you might plan so much for a wedding, what house you're going to buy, how you're going to decorate that. You might even plan and take more time in, you know, deciding what's the next car you're going to buy, and really planning and preparing for trying to conceive wherever you are on the journey can be invaluable. And this is where preconception care can certainly help, and it is usually for a minimum of 3 to 4 months, because that's how long it can take to start to optimize and make a difference with the quality of your eggs, your sperm, and also implantation success rates. So there's no better time, and it's a little bit like, you know, the more you put in, potentially the more you're going to get out of that as well. So in the chat, you know, maybe think about what are some of the negative things that can be affecting your fertility. You know, could it be stress, toxicity, including heavy metals? You know, some occupations for both male and fertility, male and female fertility, the occupations can also be contributing to heavy metals, plumbers, hairdressers, those types of things. It could be poor diet, previous contraceptive history. Hormonal imbalances are through the roof at the moment. Every second patient making an appointment to see me is coming in with some sort of hormonal issues, and that could be polycystic ovaries, thyroid, which is under evaluated in my opinion when it comes to fertility. Thyroid and fertility go hand in hand together. Holding a couple of excess kilos in weight, you know, maybe dropping 2 kilos, even 5 kilos has been shown to make a significant difference to fertility and pregnancy outcomes. So what can you do? You know, preconception care, what you do for the months leading into it, as I've alluded to, can make lifelong impacts on your child and your child's health. Preparing your body can have more successful pregnancy outcomes. It can also impact how successful IVF cycles can be. And really, it's life-changing as to how that blueprint for your child's future health can all be started in the months leading up to even trying. And that is a very valuable gift. I don't think there's anything more important these days to planning, preparing preconception. So you could be waiting month after month after month, cycle after cycle. And I like this quote that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So if we just have a bit of a minute to, you know, maybe think about some of the things that we've just already gone through in the chat screen, if you don't mind sharing, you know, what are some of the things maybe that you've heard already today that might be new concepts that you're, you know, thinking how you might be able to include into your fertility journey? Patients, I know I've got a lot of naturopaths and nutritionists joining the event today. Or what do you think you might also be able to include that you might not have started yet, that you've already learnt something from today? So yeah, if you want to share in the chat what you think has been helpful so far, or maybe if you've got any questions yet for me as well, because I've allowed time for some Q&A. If you want to unmute yourself, that's okay as well. Otherwise, if you're busy doing other things, that's okay too. So I'll go back to, definitely need to focus more on male fertility side. Yeah, exactly, Francis. It's such an overlooked area of fertility, and so many patients, when they first come in to see me, I'll either get people coming in at the start, oh, I just want to, you know, maybe look at conceiving in the next few months, but how can I best prepare my body? But I will also get patients who have been trying and they've been on the journey for such a long time. And I remember a couple and they're like, oh, the fertility specialist said we just need a helping hand. But when that, you know, sperm analysis, which we'll get to later today, comes back and the morphology is at 4%, they need a lot more than just a helping hand. And the thing about IVF and assisted reproductive techniques, ICSI, IUI, all of those amazing things is it can make such a difference for so many people. So many people wouldn't have babies without that assisted technique. But the thing that it can't change and what natural medicine can make a significant impact on is the quality of what we're working with, the quality of the eggs, the quality of the sperm. Everything comes down to quality. So thank you for that. What else have we got? Metals, is there any dangers in having old amalgam fillings removed just before trying to conceive? Great question, Beck. So yeah, when we get into the testing side of things today, I do talk about heavy metals. In a previous life, before I was a naturopath, I was actually a dental assistant. I finished year 12, didn't know what I wanted to do, knew it was something in the health industry though. And so I've got a bit of experience when it comes to that. And it was fortunate that one of our patients at the time was a naturopath. She was a very high profile naturopath. She was even on a TV show back in the day. And it was because of her that I'm like, that's it. This is what I've been looking for. This is what I want to do. And I actually had to quit my job because of studying. There was a bit of confliction with when I finished work, having to study at nights. And yeah, my boss at the time wouldn't let me leave half an hour early so I could study naturopathy. So I was that determined that I'm like, okay, I quit. So my opinion when it comes to amalgam fillings is if they don't need replacing, if they're solid, then maybe just leave them. Because if they're not removed in a very hygienic and safe way, then the amalgam vapors might be doing you more harm than good. And one of the things that everybody can do as a bit of a pre-screening, pre-pregnancy checkup is a dental checkup as well. So yeah, great question. I like the analogy of the marathon. Yeah, that is helpful to explain how the body gets depleted. Yeah, the other thing with the marathon as well that I didn't expect I would talk about today, but I sometimes have to, describe when I'm going through a semen analysis or sperm test, all of those different types of runners that can be at the marathon and all of the different types of things that can be happening in a sperm test result as well. So it's a little bit like, if you can imagine, you've got the really fit people who've been training and preparing for the marathon for a long time. You've had the people who show up and, they've had a really late night the night before, they might be drunk. And then you've got the ones who might be in the wheelchair or, might have some injuries. And it's a little bit like that when it comes to the sperm that might be reaching the egg to hopefully fertilize it. We want to be ensuring that out of that sperm sample, we've got, more of the best stuff going on than not. Where will we be able to rewatch this webinar? And unfortunately missed the first half. Yeah, so don't worry, I'm recording this. And when I get time, maybe tomorrow, I will email you through the link. Yep, so no worries with that. I think it's important that, and if you're not quickly writing down some notes, then it's a great thing to go back to and have a listen to again as well. So yeah, that's great questions. Thank you. So if we keep going. Fertility window. So yeah, some of you might be already charting. You might already know about basal body temperature, cervical mucus changes. These are all great natural fertility indicators around ovulation, whether you're trying to conceive or whether you also want to avoid. And I think we try and avoid conceiving for so much of our life that some of this information is a little bit like, hidden women's information. We don't talk about it. We don't know about it. And so many times fertility specialists are not talking about it as well. And really, the information that I'm sharing with you today, you should be able to get all of that from more than just consulting with a naturopath. So basal body temperature can be great, but it can be really tricky. It's something that you need to be doing every single morning, first thing in the morning, before you even hop out of bed. But you know, if you're already stressed about the fertility journey, for some women, I may not even recommend this, because it's just something that, again, to be thinking about day after day, morning after morning. It might be contributing to extra stress levels, and reducing stress for fertility is a really big thing to look at. A calmer body is also going to then be circulating less adrenaline, less cortisol through the mother, but also that growing baby in utero. So yeah, less stress. Cervical mucus changes and basal body, yeah, it can be really great information. You might be doing it and you might be thinking, oh my God, what does all of this mean? You know, learning this right from the start can take practice, but you know, when you've got someone to be able to read these, because they look at these charts day after day after day, it does make everything that much easier. We've also got to remember that your fertile window is only for about 24 hours each month or each cycle. So we want to be making sure that you know exactly when that time is right, or else that could be one of the reasons why it's month after month after month and you're waiting. And I've had some women over the years who've just been charting their cycle incorrectly. So if you don't know how to chart it properly, you don't know. So I would like to share with you a really important tip. And when I go through this with patients, they might be like, oh, I never knew that. So if you're charting your cycle, we can see here cycle day 1. Cycle day 1 is the first day of a new cycle, and really it's the first day of bleeding. If you're only spotting for a few days and then you bleed, the first day of spotting is not the first day of your new cycle. And also, it's not the final day of bleeding with your period. So, you know, to make fertility charting accurate, you really need to be getting that day 1 correct. And it's the first day of bleeding. Can make a significant difference. And I do encourage you to have a look at cervical mucus. It may be a little bit, you know, foggy here, but fertile mucus can show you when is the right time to start trying. And you might be using expensive ovulation kits, and that can be great. That can be really helpful to get that understanding. The other tip I want to share with you is it's not about trying when you've seen that you've ovulated, because that might also be another reason why you're waiting month after month. It can be really important when you chart for a few months, when you get to know your cycle, and this is all for if you're trying to conceive naturally. You know, if you've got charting for a few months and you can predict that, yep, every day 14, every day 15, it can be varying for a few days for a lot of women. And it's really helpful if you've got a regular cycle, because quite often patients with PCOS, you know, their cycles are all over the place, and you've got to try and regulate that first to help distinguish when in your cycle is going to be the most appropriate fertile window. And then if you know, okay, every day 14 is when I ovulate, it's actually really good to start trying the day before or even 2 days before you ovulate, because we want the sperm almost near the journey of reaching the egg or waiting for the egg. And then as the egg is released, then we've got more of a higher chance at catching the egg at its healthiest and most fertile, for then the sperm to penetrate and fertilize the egg, rather than, oh, I've ovulated, we've got to try. And then just as the sperm have reached the egg, the health of the egg is declining, or the other side of it is the egg might not be waiting anymore. We've missed it. We're just there too late. And the sperm, for some sperm, depending on the health, sperm can actually live in that environment for up to 5 days. Do we have any questions yet?
I might just say it instead of typing.
Yes.
I was just wondering, I've heard quite a bit about the sperm health, that if the sperm health is not quite up to standard, that trying to have intercourse too many times around that fertile window can actually jeopardize it, because the sperm quality kind of depletes the more you try. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is where every case is different as well. It can also be not leaving it too long in between trying to conceive, or trying as well. And I apologize for the people who've been waiting. I've only just seen that you were in the waiting room, but don't worry, I've recorded this and I'll be emailing it through to you when I get a chance. So yeah, if you might have seen it, there's a picture of tadpoles that represent sperm. But if you haven't tried for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, then those tadpoles turn into frogs. So yeah, it's all about that, the vitality of the sperm too. Some men can also feel that they might be under performance pressure, if you're trying and trying and trying. And this is where knowing your fertile window helps to just minimize one of the minor or major obstacles getting in your way. And that's where you can use some supplements, herbal medicine, to also help with the vitality, the stamina, and the health of the sperm. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the presentation. So we know a healthy body is a fertile body, and there's so much when it comes to diet, nutrition. It's looking at one of the key fertility foundations: good nutrition, no nutritional deficiencies, or really minimizing and addressing that. And also, making sure that the quality of your food that you're eating is the best quality. And I'm a big one for organic food. So wherever you can, homegrown food. There's nothing that tastes better than just being able to go to your own veggie patch, your fruit trees, or whatever it might be. The next best thing, we can't grow everything ourselves all the time. Yeah, start to get familiar with good health food stores or organic stores around you. We want to be making sure that nutrition is as optimal as possible. And yes, there's fertility diets that you can be looking at. It's one factor out of many that make up a healthy, fertile body. I wanted to just share with you something when we're talking about, good nutrition and things. When my daughter was little, she said to me, "What did you use to make me, Mum? Was it milk and sugar?" And I just thought that was so adorable. And I replied, "Yes, honey, and lots of love." The other side of this is to remember And it can be so difficult if you've been waiting and waiting. It's still about a love-making process, not just a baby-making process too. And sometimes, depending on, how you're feeling, especially for a woman, it can feel like your body might be letting you down. When's it going to happen? Why isn't it happening? And it can be so tricky when there's so many people around you who might actually be getting pregnant. Yeah. So are you lacking key nutrients? So these are some of my must-have nutrients when I'm looking at fertility. CoQ10, there's a couple of different forms of CoQ10, and it's the ubiquinol form that is my choice. I don't carry any other form of CoQ10. I describe it as like the Ferrari, the deluxe form, all about that cellular support. And when we're thinking about the quality of eggs, sperm health, it all comes down to cells, and ubiquinol is going to be the best CoQ10 for that. We know about folic acid. You need a lot more than folic acid, and we'll talk about that and how folic acid may not be suited for some people. We'll get to in the testing side of things. But research a couple of years ago showed that choline, was just as important as folic acid. Choline is a key nutrient for brain health and development as well. Calcium, magnesium, most people these days are magnesium depleted. Magnesium can also work as a lovely calming nutrient too. So when we're thinking about the stress of fertility, the stress of trying to conceive, then magnesium is quite often part of my prescription. Zinc, really important for sperm health in particular. Omega-3s, especially DHA, but vitamin D. So many people are so deficient on vitamin D. Vitamin D is crucial for sperm health. And I'll talk to you about where I ideally want to see my patients' vitamin D levels. I just want to share with you a card that I got actually. Dear Rebecca, we wanted to share our wonderful news with you. I gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby boy. Words cannot describe how grateful we are that we have met you. Your knowledge, skill, compassion, and kindness helped us in this miraculous journey. This was another lady struggling with IVF. Miraculous journey to become pregnant naturally. Thank you so much for taking such good care of me and my husband. Again, fertility involves the male, if there's a male there, and I do work with single females. I've had an easy and joyful pregnancy, labour, and now a perfect baby boy. Thanks to your help and care in preparing my body so well. Thank you again. We are forever grateful. Sometimes you've just got to do something different if what you have been doing just isn't working. So fertility in a toxic world, we're only becoming more toxic as the years go by. So I'm just going to stop sharing for the time being. In the chat section, maybe list some of the things that you might think are toxins that you might be exposed to regularly on a daily basis every now and then. What toxins do you think might be affecting your fertility levels? Or you can unmute if you've got a question. Exactly, Francis. Yeah, I think they said that the average woman is exposed to over 500 different types of chemicals. Yeah, perfumes, household products, plastic containers, absolutely, let alone, if we get our hair dyed, if we get the acrylic false nails and things. Yeah. It can also be, non-organic pads and tampons if you're using things like that. Yeah. You're exposed in lots of different ways, let alone the food we're eating, the air quality. There are just so many different ways that we're exposed. But also, sometimes our parents and our grandparents might also be contributing to our heavy metal loads. And that's the amazing thing when it comes to knowing that my health didn't just come from my parents, but also my grandparents. And I know that, I can have an impact not just on the next generation, but the next couple of generations too. And that's really powerful stuff. So yeah, air pollution, processed food, alcohol, body products, household cleaning products. It can also come down to gardening products as well. Are you in the landscape or the gardening industry where you might be exposing yourself to things like Roundup, different types of pesticides, herbicides? Do you use those plug-in air fresheners, automatic fly sprays that go off every 5 minutes or however you can time it? The water that you might be drinking, I'm a big one for filtered water. Electromagnetic frequencies is what the EMF stands for. So Wi-Fi, mobile phones, and where do most men keep their mobile phone? In their front pocket or pockets. Some men that I've worked with over time have a work mobile phone and a private mobile phone. So, getting those things away from the very close areas of the testes can make a big difference too. And I share a story about a building biologist who was, really unsuccessful in trying to conceive. She had multiple miscarriages, and she was just talking to her neighbour one day, and the neighbour said, "Oh dear, no one's ever been able to have a baby in that house." And so it got her thinking about, well, why is that? And she got someone out to do air quality testing, and the quality in the bedroom that they were sleeping in at the front of the house was the worst air quality, lived on a busy road and things. So they relocated their bedroom to the back end of the house, and not long afterwards were pregnant again, this time with twins, and went on to carry those twins and have very healthy twins as well. So there's lots of different things that you can be looking at. And my rule is keep your mobile phones as far away from you as possible. I cringe whenever I see at a shopping centre a woman might grab their mobile phone out of their bra because they've tucked it in there. I don't keep my mobile phone in my bedroom overnight. I've still got one of those old-fashioned alarm plug-in clocks, and Fertility is nothing that I'm looking at for myself at the moment. These are also good tips just for your overall health as well. So yeah, a couple of things that you might need to consider. Digestive endotoxins, the field of gut health is forever evolving at the moment, very, very quick, but things like leaky gut can make a difference on fertility too. And the other thing that we don't think about, are there any toxic emotions that are acting like toxins? Could there be any fears around pregnancy, labor? Over time, it can be a fear of, my life's going to change, but I think my partner will still go out and party with the boys and late nights. It could be, oh, am I going to be a good mum? The other fear that I heard from a practitioner friend recently, the friend who helped me with my preconception care about 18 years ago, she had a patient and her fear came from traumas she'd experienced or witnessed, lived on a farm, and she'd seen her horse at the time die during childbirth. She'd had another experience on the farm when the same thing happened. And her fear was that maybe that could happen to me. So, it's an area that I don't have time to get into today, but emotions, what's blocking you, thought field therapy, tapping can really help to unlock those types of things too, and can make a dramatic shift if you've got unexplained, not that I like the word infertility, unexplained issues getting in your way. So stress, increases your nutritional requirements. So when we know that nutrition is just a key foundation for fertility, stress is just depleting that. The need for magnesium only gets greater under times of stress, rushing, go, 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 anxiety, overwhelmed, a too big a to-do list. So yeah, stress and hormones aren't a good mix. It suppresses reproductive function. There's a whole list of things here, but it can also interfere with success rates of IVF. The effects of stress on fertility, and I love this connection. My brother is a qualified acupuncturist, and sometimes around the dinner table we have very interesting conversations at home. My mum's also a psychologist, so yeah, there's a meridian when it comes to traditional Chinese medicine, the heart womb or heart uterus connection or meridian. It's almost like what our heart is feeling, our womb might be feeling as well. So, don't underestimate the difference of stressing less and also maybe doing a good specialized detox under the care of, a qualified naturopath as well. Number one thing I do with my patients is a specialized fertility detox. And what that does is it helps to clear out toxins, waste, heavy metals, whatever it might be. It's a bit like a spring clean for the house. If you've got so much clutter and stuff going on, you might not be able to see really what you need to work on. And so, yeah, doing a good detox can have multiple benefits. The importance of sperm quality. If you ever Google sperm, you'll see that they might have 2 tails, 2 heads, no heads. It's amazing at just the impact that this can have on fertility levels. So sperm quality, just as important to enhance male fertility. Sperm is a lot more delicate than eggs, so it really gets damaged to heavy metals, toxins, those types of things. You might have a partner and, I'll only smoke a couple of cigarettes a day. Smoking can significantly affect sperm DNA. Hypnotherapy can be a great thing to quit smoking. Low sperm count can be due to stress. Sperm morphology. Poor morphology can be linked to toxins. And yeah, my number one tip for men, keep your mobile phones out of your pockets. A great example for, oh no, that's for testing. I'll get to that. I'm jumping the gun a little bit too much. So yeah, we've talked about planning and preparing for success. It's never too early to start preparing your body either, whether that's for this year, next year, if you've got irregular cycles, if you need to come off the pill, it's certainly better to do some preparation work in the lead up to trying rather than, oh, my periods haven't returned. Better to have that lead up time. So when time to try is here, then you're in a much better position to have a successful first try maybe. Nothing changes overnight. It can be that it can take time to steer a ship that's been heading in a right direction. And it can take, again, that 3 to 4 months to make a significant impact on the quality of eggs and sperms. But you've got so much more to gain from investing in those handful of months. And, you know, I know for some people time is of the essence, but what you do in that preparation can quite often save you time, might also save you a lot of heartache and money from maybe not needing so many IVF cycles. So testing, everyone loves testing. I look at testing in a couple of different ways. I love testing. It takes the guesswork out of knowing what I need to do to best be able to help my patients. In my experience, I don't just presume that because you've seen a doctor or doctors that you're under the care of the best fertility specialist, that you go to the best fertility clinic. I don't presume that they've investigated all of the things that I would like to see for my patients. So I do comprehensive testing right from the start. I'd much rather know now, we've got this minor issue with one or both of you, rather than down the track, well, maybe we should test for this. And then it's a case of, oh, I wish I'd known that right at the start. So vitamin D, some of you may have already had your vitamin D levels tested. And quite often patients will say, oh yeah, my doctor said everything's normal, Rebecca. And I might see that your vitamin D is 54. Yes, it falls within the bracket range of what's on the blood test results, but really that bracket range is outdated. It should be what's the ideal range. So for fertility, I want your levels to be around 150. So a significant difference. Thyroid, I've already mentioned that there's a strong link with thyroid and fertility. Thyroid and miscarriages is big. And a lot of the time, only TSH might be investigated. And I've forgotten to put one thyroid marker here. I will update this slide, but reverse T3 can also be a good one to check. Thyroid antibodies and iodine. Zinc and copper. So zinc we know is essential for sperm health, but also for female reproductive health. And we don't want a copper excess either. If the copper's too high, it will quite often lower the zinc level. When it comes to female hormone testing, I might have a look at some hormone test results. My first question is, what day of your cycle did you do this testing? Some women might look at me as if to say, oh, what does she mean by that? So I say, oh, did you do the testing when you had your period? Oh, no, Rebecca, I just did it when I had a day off. That can also give us false information. So if you want to do with blood tests, hormones, then it can be really accurate to test on day 2 or 3 of your cycle. So remember, day 1 is the first day of your period and bleeding. So if you get your period today, you know that tomorrow or the next day you can go and do your testing. I will sometimes also do saliva hormones, and if there's a lot of hormones going on for an extensive period of time, I might even do urine hormone testing. MTHFR, it's a classic must-have test for me these days. It's a genetic factor that is quite often overlooked with testing when it comes to GPs and fertility clinics. Quite often doctors will say to me, oh, I don't even know what that one is, Rebecca, so I'm not testing for it. This will be a factor to determine whether you need a more specialized form of folic acid. So always good. It can cost about $40 to $80 to do this test, and it will never change. So you only have to do the test once. And with a patient recently, the only thing I changed, because I was waiting for some test results to come back through, was I changed her prenatal supplement. I got her off the Elevate. I got her onto one of my favorite ones, which has the folinic acid in there, more specific for people who have MTHFR. And she was coming back for her review appointment to go through the testing. And as soon as she sat down, she said, I don't know how much this testing is going to mean, or we might not need to do anything because I'm actually pregnant. And she was trying since 2018 to conceive. She'd had IVF, she'd tried naturally, and she thinks that the biggest difference for why she conceived was the change in prenatal multivitamin, to take into account that she actually did test positive for MTHFR. Semen analysis. So a semen analysis, really important to have a male do that at a fertility andrology lab. So maybe a couple of months ago, it was summertime anyway, I was invited to go to City Fertility, and I had a look at behind the scenes, and you know where the collection room is, you press the button and you know it's analysed right then and there very, very quickly under the care of an andrologist. So wherever you can, fertility lab is going to be much better to do the semen analysis. HTMA. So HTMA is also called a hair trace mineral analysis test, is exactly what it is. It's a snip of the hair and it can look at mineral deficiencies. I really like to use it for knowing where heavy metal levels are. It can screen for if you're concerned about mercury, also looks at aluminium, lead, arsenic, a whole range of different things. And a vaginal microbiome swab, especially important if there's been recurrent miscarriages. The other test that everything's based on individual presentation, individual prescription and plan. And this patient, Anthony, came to see me back, late last year, had been trying to conceive naturally for 2 years. And for them, because of their religious beliefs, it was natural way or no way. They knew that they would not be going down any assisted reproductive technique treatment. So when I had a look at his semen analysis and there was 1% of normal sperm detected, I start to think, okay, what else is going on? We were waiting to get his hair trace mineral analysis back, and I thought, I'm going to send you to the doctor. I want you to get an ultrasound. And it's an ultrasound on his scrotum to see if there was something called varicocele. So varicocele is a little bit like a varicose vein that can have an impact on the normality or the morphology of sperm, and also concentration and count levels as well. And he came back with, oh, Rebecca, yes, there's mild, it's been mildly picked up, but you know what? If it's still mild, but it's having such a dramatic impact on my fertility, I'm still going to have the procedure done. So sent off for the ultrasound, and yes, it came back January this year. He had that procedure, and yeah, he had to wait a little bit of time. I think it was 6 weeks before he could start trying again. But I calculated yesterday, and his wife is now 12 weeks pregnant. So, you know, sometimes you do have to think outside the box. I may not recommend that type of ultrasound for all of my male patients, but you know, it could have been the factor and the difference for him. So I just want to stop that for a minute. Just want to see if there's any questions. Heavy metals, yep. So Lena, that would be a great thing to investigate, the cadmium, mercury with that hair trace mineral analysis test. Yep, the endocrine disrupting chemicals, so plastics, you know, trying not to reheat in plastic microwave containers. Always try and have a stainless steel water bottle rather than those plastic water bottles. So it's about minimizing as much as you possibly can. You can't avoid everything, but the more you do, the more potentially you're going to get out of it. any key takeaways that anyone would like to share at the moment, or any questions?
I'm happy to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Just with the MTHFR, I've had a few clients with this and then obviously gone on to the folate and some more methylated Bs. I had a client that kept on coming back repetitively with very, very high B12, and I can't put my finger on what would be causing that. It was like something like 780, and it just wasn't going down. And
Okay.
their GP was saying, "Oh, it's not a problem. You can never have too much," but it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, and this is the thing when it comes to those brackets next to the reference range or the range of pathology results. It's also looking at the active compared to just your standard B12. So if it's just your standard B12, then I would be happy for 600. So, if you think 700 was the result or thereabouts, then, maybe just looking at the diet. It could also be testing for homocysteine levels as well, giving you a little bit more of an idea as to how that absorption detoxification process is actually happening, making sure that your client isn't also taking maybe multiple supplements that each might have a little bit of B12 in there that, could be a little bit too much B12 as well.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, and it was only the prenatal, which you almost can't find a prenatal without B12 because it's so important. But then it was a bit tricky.
I wouldn't worry about low 700s.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe do a diet review. See, if there's a lot of B12 in the food, especially if she might be vegetarian.
And sorry, one last question. Just in terms of the first day of bleeding, because obviously that's really important around figuring out the cycle. What really is considered a bleed versus spotting? Because a lot of people also have very light periods throughout the entire time. And what if you were to start your menstruation overnight? Would that be day one, the day before, or the next day?
Yeah, great question. So you can then put that down as the next day. If you've woken up in the middle of, if you've woken up at say 11 p.m., do you put it down for today? I'd put it down for tomorrow. Yeah, so great question. And that's the thing, that's probably a whole extra topic to talk about, the quality of blood flow. Is there an insufficiency? Is there congestion with such a light bleed as well that could be stimulated, enhanced circulation, and those types of things? So I suppose, day one, if you're having to change a few times, tampon pads, whatever it might be, then yeah, but for some women, it might just be, it's very light and I just have to wear a liner. So that in itself might be providing a bit more information as to, gee, do we really just need to get that circulation and that nourishment for a better flow, better quality of a bleed? If it's really pale, then could she also be very low in iron? And that's why she's not losing so much blood in a period, because there's not that much there to maybe lose. The body's trying to hold on to as much as possible. And this is where acupuncture can also be great. I'm not just in my area of naturopathy. I sometimes have to have a team of people around to help my patients. Could be a psychologist, could be, an acupuncturist, and each of us work on different things, and sometimes people need just more than one modality to help. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, anything that they would like to share? Anything that they found helpful? So this is what one of my friends gave out to us when we were doing one of her yoga meditation workshops a few years ago. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. I think that's a good reminder that sometimes we do need to do something different. I've had some women who've worked 3 jobs. You know, they've cut down one really stressful job and within a few months they've been able to conceive. Sometimes it's not about what you're eating, what supplements you're taking. It might be more of a lifestyle prescription that's going to make the difference. And for some of you, you might want to think, you know, what's the next step? And it could be that you are deciding to just continue what you've always been doing. You might think that you've heard some good things today and you might want to start trying some of those things out or go back over your test results. Maybe you need a little bit more testing. Maybe you now think, oh yeah, maybe a naturopath can be the right person to be able to help me investigate what's getting in our way, either minor or major issues, and what else is needed to get that positive pregnancy result as well. So if you would like to know more information about how I can help you, then I would encourage you to book in an Optimising fertility call. It's a free call and it is a limited availability. So if you go on to my website, innerreward.com.au, there's a book appointment button, and that button, that type of appointment will be available until the end of this week. So that type of appointment will be removed at the end of this week. So you could book a time, but that might not be for, you know, another 2 weeks, another 4 weeks. But at the end of this week, there won't be any availability to book that time. Or the other thing you might like to do is join my Facebook group, Optimising Fertility Naturally. So yeah, that brings me to the end of my talk today. I'd love it if you can put into the chat section what some of your key takeaways might have been from today, what you really thought was, you know, of benefit for you, and anything that you might want to see next time I might do the talk. You know, today was a sellout. I had 50 people register for the event. So, you know, it just shows me that there's a need for this. And this is my first presentation to such a large group of people on Zoom. Usually I'd be doing these things face to face. So I was a bit nervous as to how was all of my tech stuff going to go today. And as I said, I will be sending you out that recording. Thank you. Great talk. Yep. Thanks very much. I hope you have got a lot out of that today, that you've come in and you've learnt something new. Thank you, Francis. Thanks for your questions as well. And yeah, no matter where you are on your fertility journey or helping patients as well, I wish you all the very best. And yeah, it's looking like a great day here in Melbourne, wherever you are. Hope you have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.